Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike and Laurent. It is Friday, July 23rd. Wow, summer's coming. In this episode, I'm alone. Mike is in the wind. He's in the streets. He's doing what he needs to do. We will talk the rise of Europe in women's football, pro rel in the USA, and soccer stats. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about where I'm feeling with transfers. Basically, don't listen to any transfers until they're done, because really it's completely absurd. It doesn't make a difference. They talk about the same 5 teams over and over again, buying all the teams. And if you actually went through and looked at all the players they were going to potentially buy, and you thought, oh, yeah, I guess my team is doing stuff, they're just talking shit. It's all crap. For instance, today, someone from The Sun, England's least reputable newspaper owned by Rupert Murdoch, reported a story that became soccer news. This is the celebrity reporter overheard Jack Grealish say at a party that he'd like to play for, that Harry Kane would like to play for City, and that it would be fun to play with Kevin De Bruyne, and that they have a deal on the table for 160 million euros. That became news. That was the rumor. The gossip person, not the sports person, not the person talking to agents, not anything. The gossip person. So there's only a handful of actual sources and things that make sense. So, when you think about a big transfer window, especially in the Premier League, what you have to remember is anything over 3 players in a single transfer window is a lot. I'm not talking about like 18-year-olds and little people and little side deals that have been in the works, just more housekeeping. I'm talking like when Harry Kane goes to X, or when this player goes to here. I think there was the famous, the Spurs had a famous 5, the Bale 5 or Bale 4. It was Soldado, Lamela, Paulinho. Mike would know. But that was a lot. They brought in 5 or 6 players all at once. Ericsson. And that was weird. And when City were building up the team, they had 2 or 3 transfer windows of 4 players, like Silva, Yaya, Korolov, and Boateng all came in one window. And I was like, oh my God, City's spending money. This is insane. Or a couple of years ago, City got Stones, Walker, and Mendy and Silva in one window. And that was the big, oh my God, Pep's did an overhaul. Anything more than that, especially if you haven't planned the whole thing out, is just too much, and you shouldn't expect it to be more. Like, for instance, if Man United do Sancho, Varane, and one other player, that's a huge window. And, if you listen to the news, the transfer windows for Man United are everyone. It's Chiesa, it's Haaland, it's Lewandowski. If there's a player, there are 5 teams that they're connected to, and that's all we do. It's like this crazy madcap system that we just jump, 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. It's all bunk. So just keep that in mind when you listen to the transfer window. We all get excited. We all want it to happen. We want it to happen yesterday, but pump the brakes. Your team will get players. Every team refreshes. If you're a United fan, you should be worried, because as far as I know, Ed Woodward's still in charge, and he has not exactly closed deals well. But they did get Sancho over the line. City usually have things done by now, but it's an interesting season. There's a lot of articles going around about how transfers have changed, and The Athletic is the place for that. They've done a good job of picking up those types of stories along the lines there. But, the big one is Harry Kane, $160 million to City. Nope. That's just not happening. If it does, I'll be wrong again. I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. If it happens, it happens. I think, it would be great to have Harry Kane, but, Ugh. We don't need Harry Kane. Harry Kane is so good that he can do the role of two players. He basically is like a half Kevin De Bruyne, half Lewandowski, but City don't need that. They just need Lewandowski. They just need a finisher. So that part's really interesting, and I'm not sure how that's going to go. But, speaking of transfers and all these things, one of the things that got me really fired up for this women's season, the women's national team season, and the Olympics is going on. And the big news is that the United States lost 3-0 to Sweden after having won 44 games in a row. Mike and I are Eurocentric. We're not USA. Mike more so than I am. But I think that we noticed in watching the World Cup, especially the last one, I guess 2017. I mean, the U.S. is the reigning champions. It's great. Mike has specific problems with Megan Rapinoe's politics, but that's a whole nother show. I love her as a player. She's my favorite player. She's 35. Carrie Lloyd, who played at City, and I have a lot of respect for, she's 39. The team has no attacking players under the age of 26. I thought Rose Lavelle was our young player, and she's 26. And under Jill Ellis, the United States has been playing this sort of antiquated football where we just run and kick. And when you watch the U.S. women's national team, you see women that are athletes, like noticeably bigger than the women that they're playing against. Julie Ertz is monstrous. Carrie Muse is monstrous. These are big, strong women. And the United States has been essentially getting away with playing antiquated football, 4-4-2. Jill Ellis is English. They just played regular, standard, kick and chase, physical football, where they just overpower teams. But I think, especially in Europe has gotten super duper competitive, and the United States lost to Sweden, and it's not a surprise. If you watch the Champions League over the last 7 years in women's football, it has been owned by the French team Olympique Lyonnais, and their women's team make up the backbone of the French team. And the French were the favorites in the Women's World Cup in France, but they fell apart somehow. But the money invested by the frankly smarter clubs in England, especially Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City, they understand the concept of extending their brands to have women's teams. You can only grow so much if you're just going after that same 18 to 34-year-old man in England. They're not going to grow that group. That group's not going to spend more money. They're done. They're tapped out. You can see it in the TV package sales. They're not growing in England for who's watching. But you can grow, you can grow on the women's side, even if it's still men mostly watching. Bringing women in and investing in women is a huge untapped market. It's relatively cheap, and you can do it pretty quickly. So that competitive fight is spilling into these teams. They want to win, to raise the level, even if their motivations are nefarious, in that they want to raise money and make their team more money. Part of making more money is winning. In soccer in Europe, winning equates to sponsorship, equates to revenue. So when Manchester City's team wins a lot, or Chelsea's women's team wins, which they have an amazing coach, Emma Hayes, she's fucking the best. She's curses on the sidelines. Anyway, when their team wins, then they can go to their sponsor and go to Lucas Oil and say, hey, yes, the men's team is X, but we're reaching women 18 to 34, and that's a valuable demographic, and they can grow their brand that way. And all I'm trying to say is the growth of women's soccer in Europe, we just saw a Barcelona team fucking annihilate the whole universe. It was an incredible feat. Means that there's an arms race, and players are getting better coaching, and they're better than their American counterparts when they get together, because they've had full-term coaching with full-time teams, full-time coaching, associated with the men teams. The whole thing is rolled under into these mega teams. While in the NWSL, sure, there's the Red Stars in Chicago, but that team is on its own. It's not sharing the Chicago Fire's facilities, and in that case, it's not sharing the Chicago Fire's facilities. They're not. There's an LA team that's just starting. It's not sharing LA Galaxy. There's no LAFC women, and even if there are, they're independent, and they have to fight to just get their hand on the rung. Now, granted, the women's national team has spends well and whatever. They can fight about equity. It's probably the best funded national team in the world. But the European teams, specifically in South America too, they're all figuring this out slowly but surely, that, hey, half our country, we need to invest in our women. The gap, the lead that the U.S. had because of Title IX over the decades has disappeared. And European teams are spending money and equity and all this Me Too and all this equity. It matters, and they are spending money. And these teams have better coaching, better facilities. They're sharing resources with their 150-year-old male clubs. Granted, a lot of terrible things have happened. Women aren't getting treated fairly, but the women's game in Europe is good. England, it's the same fight. The same fight we see in the top of the Premier League. The same fight is happening in the women's league. Granted, it's only a 12-team league. They only play a handful of games, but it's still Chelsea, City, Arsenal going to war. Manchester United, disgustingly, and this is a whole episode that I wanted to chat about, spent money on their team. Pandemic hit. They're now stripping their team. Disgusting. The biggest fucking team in the world with the strongest soccer brand in the world is exiting women's soccer right when it should. And their coach, Stoney, I don't know her name, is actually coming to San Diego to start the women's team with the GM, who's Gilella. So a little bit of weird stuff that's mixing in with San Diego. So I'm really just blown away at the women's team and just how it's set up and who's been selected. The United States has selected just the oldest team. We have by far the best opportunity to at the stream. We have the best opportunity in the world to show, I mean, just unbelievable numbers. I want to show everyone these numbers. This is from 2019. This is every country's football federation. I'm just going to give you a really quick summary. It just blew my mind. I knew the U.S. had more players, but this blew me away. So this is by confederation. These are basically the continents around the world that play soccer, right? So this is Asia. We think about in Asia we have Japan, who are World Cup champion. Australia has really great women's sports. They've always had really great sports. This is the number of women over 18 who are registered. A good number. Very nice. Okay. Look at the United States. We have as more women registered to play soccer in the United States than all the other groups combined. 200,000, 70,000. We have 1.8 million. 37,000, 42,000 under 18. And then here in Europe, they have almost 1 million and 500,000 over 18 registered to play. They beat us. We have 146,000 under 18, and Europe has 500,000 over 18. So Europe is doing better, but with less resources, with less of a denominator. But it's incredible that the United States has 9 million women and girls registered to play, 1.8 million registered under 18, but we're not making professional players. We're not making adults. Adults aren't playing, whereas in Europe the adults are playing. And Sweden, who just beat the US, have 109,000 adults registered to play, whereas the United States does not. We only have 80,000. and we still run out the same fucking 11 women over and over again. Let's just look at the women's national team roster. Just really quickly. I'm just to give you a sense of the age of the team. Oh, this doesn't have their age. I'll find the wiki list. Anyway, they're all too old. It's just an incredible array of older players, and you'd expect that we would just have younger players. It's just shocking that we don't have anyone to replace our stars, and I think part of that is money. I think part of it is the power of the players. They are allowed to run their club the way they see fit, and then we want to see them like they become stars, and so we hold on to them, and we want to see Morgan, and we want to see Rapinoe, and we want to see Lloyd and Mewis and Lavelle, and that's all well and good, but they're old, and Sweden pressed them off the pitch and ran them down. They had no time. My image of the game is Rose Lavelle in the midfield with her with her feet at the ball, looking for someone to pass it to. No one came to her. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing. And these are group stages, and the Olympics has tough qualifiers. I don't expect the United States to get out of it. I honestly don't. If they didn't get a medal, I would not be surprised at all. At all. I mean, yes, they're incredible. It's amazing. What I think the United States is getting a reckoning of is a historical precedent. In 1953, in the game of the century, England played Hungary and got blown out 5-3, and then played them again a year later and got blown out 7-1. And that was the moment that England got off its fucking high horse, figured out that Europeans actually knew what they were doing playing soccer, and the arrogance disappeared, and they had to change the way they played. And it's not a surprise that in the 60s, England won the World Cup, and Celtic won the European Cup in 68 and in 67, and Man United in 68. And that was, they needed a wake-up call to change how they played. And so I think this might be the tournament that the United States goes, yeah, we need to get better. I don't know who this new coach is. Women's soccer is different. Why not get the best men? I don't understand. Like, if it's this valuable and it means this much, why not have Phil Bradley, Bob Bradley? Like, why can't he coach? Like, I don't see the differentiation between a men's coach and a women's coach. It's still football, and I just think they should be able to do it. So that's crazy. In other big news, the USL has openly started discussing with their board of governors. The USL is the second division of the U.S. Soccer League, and has historically had a partnership with MLS, but they've recently broken up that partnership. And the USL's structure is surprisingly similar to England's. They actually have two leagues already, the USL Championship and the USL Division II. And they are actively discussing creating promotion and relegation within their league. Not only that, they are actively discussing moving their calendar to the European calendar. If in case you don't know, American soccer plays on the South American timer. We start in March and end in April, whereas I can't remember, as opposed to the European calendar, which starts in August and ends in May. Yeah, I think that's right. So it starts in March. And yeah, we don't go over the Christmas period. There's been arguments for it for years. We don't want to go against the NFL. We don't want to do this. We want to be more like South America. I think that, there's a lot of American soccer fans who fantasize about promotion and relegation because it creates a competition to win. Right now, the MLS, most of the games don't matter during the regular season. Teams ramp up, wait for the playoffs. There's 3 rounds, and it really we have the same. Soccer is a different sport. It doesn't really work without something on the game. It's weird in that it doesn't have that juice and oomph. And I think fans know it, and they see Premier League and European and South America, what we saw at the Copa, a fight level that is beyond our understanding, and a mentality of like, we have to win or survive or you fall through the moon door. The USL is setting up essentially a full shadow structure behind I'm just grabbing it to the USL just so we can see just what it looks like. It's got a couple of leagues underneath it, and it's centralized. They do their own production, just like the Premier League do. Premier League actually produces all its things and says, hey, country, do you want the show? USL does that, and they've basically been vending out their rights to their entire system to ESPN. So just a really quick, you can see over here, there's USL 1, that's the top level. That's the league. That's the championship. Then you've got USL 1 and League 2, and they're starting a women's league as well to compete with the NWSL. They just believe that soccer in its purest sense has competition up and down. They are rejecting the American sport model of franchise. Yes, all these teams are partnered. Yes, they're all working together, but this is at a lower level. They're trying to create the structure of European soccer, and I'm for it. I think that MLS is a little bit resting on its laurels. I don't think it's a league it's fake growing. It's growing by expansion rather than having teams grow. If you look at the ratings for the MLS, they're very poor. The game experience is great. Like, I used to go to NYCFC games, and you see teams like Cincinnati, who have come up from the USL, become really good. What the USL has been traditionally has been the place where a franchise will prove itself, and then the MLS will pick it off if it's good. The only team that they didn't do that with was Sacramento FC, who just couldn't get their stadium together. But Cincinnati comes from USL. Minnesota comes from USL. Atlanta didn't. A couple of other teams, I can't remember. Orlando Pride. Orlando comes from the USL. So they would just find strong clubs, and then USL would find a way to regenerate and find a new club. And it's a strong league. I enjoy it. They're on ESPN Plus. My team right here in San Diego, the San Diego Loyal, is a USL team because we didn't get an MLS team. But I would support the team if they went down. I mean, the idea of promotion and relegation, even though in the U.S. it would have to be a little bit different because of the regions, you'd have to make it at least time zone based within how it works. I don't know if you'd want someone, an East Coast team getting relegated and having to travel to the West, especially on the wages that they have. But it's good to see a fight, a change, a challenge, a push to do it differently. We've been hearing from Don Garber, the commissioner of the MLS, saying, oh, we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. The MLS is essentially run by former NFL guys. And like I talked about many times before, European soccer looks to the NFL as a model, which is what the Super League was. And American soccer looks to Europe as a model. And we're always envious of what we don't have and not appreciative of what we do. But I think in the U.S., from a competitive perspective, like from a competition perspective, promotion and relegation is good. From a business perspective, it's awful. But you're going to have to find a way to keep the competition and keep the businesses going. And I think the USL has the right idea, especially if they aren't so dependent on television money that they can spread it around the systems and let these local markets grow and allow there to be a system where a team that's small can grow into at least the second level of American soccer. I mean, I watched USL. It's enjoyable. It's a good level. I've had moments already. Last week, Loyal were down a man and down a goal and came back and won 2-1. And I felt the football feelings, and I can talk about it right now. And I'm looking forward. I'm going with Lisa to see the Loyal on Saturday, and it's exciting. It's a good league, and I think the MLS is not significantly better. Honestly, it's just not. Yes, each team has 3 or 4 stars, But when you watch it, I mean, for a normal fan, for a fan experience and going to a game, it's fine. So I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward and hope that the USL Board of Governors makes that call and does indeed go to promotion and or relegation. But before we get relegated, we need to talk about our friend Joe at Attitude of Gratitude. And he's been helping us so much with our bills, with taking care of things. He is a fine financial consultant. He really works at the tactical level, trying to make sure that your bills are paid off and you have a structure in place and rules and a process to help you through. So please contact Joe at Attitude of Gratitude Consulting. He has a very unique way to save you plenty of cash on your monthly bills. Visit Attitude of Gratitude Consulting for more info. And I'm going to take a sip from my Men in Blazers cup before I talk about the wonderful Sunflower Meadow seasonings. We love to snack at the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. And man, we just received our latest shipment of seasonings from Sunflower Meadow Seasonings. They have their brand new cheddar beer dip exclusively made for the Chop Sports Network. You can go on their website. You will see the Chop Sports logo. It's delicious. You have to try it. Mention Chop Sports when you talk to Jess and save some money. Visit sunflowermeadowseasonings.com for their entire lineup of products. It is incredible. Back to the show. Okay. So one of the things I'd like to sort of shout out to everybody is please subscribe to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast group. This week I shared two different videos. Two different infographics I made based on the guys who brought you baseballreference.com, one of the life-changing time sucks of history for baseball fans, has brought that to the Premier League and soccer. So fbref.com, incredible website, has got soccer statistics now. And really what I was doing was just hunting down, looking into the Premier League, and I wanted to know, who's affecting play more than anyone. And this table right here was what I shared, the player shot creation per 90 table. And I just sorted it by shots created. And I just wanted to, see what there was to see. And what came up was what I expected. Bruno Fernandes was the top creator. And, he led the league in goals and assists. Made sense. Now, this shot creation thing is the 2 steps before a shot is created. Now, not all shots are the same. And, of course, Mike lost his mind because my shot creation tool didn't have Harry Kane on it, which bothered him. And that's fine. But, you see that. So I saw some players I didn't think. Like, I didn't know or have a good sense that Mason Mount was that good. I knew that he played under Lampard and he played under Tuchel, but that he was the second leading shot creator in the league was impressive. What impressed me more, though, was Jack Grealish being third and only playing 24 games. So the first thing I shared was per 90 minutes. And, players who didn't play a lot got highly rated. So Hakim Ziyech barely made it. I didn't realize it was only 13 times that he played 90 games. But he made a lot of substitutions, so his minutes were very close to Grealish. Sorry, that's age. The qualifier was you needed to play at least a third of all minutes available, so 30 minutes of all your team games. But, when you watch Ziyech, he usually threw a diagonal cross into the box and created shots. Mason Mount, Fernandes, Madison was there. which was interesting because he missed a lot of games. Rodrigo for Leeds. That one threw me off because he was poor and sort of didn't really break through. It was more Rafinha, who did all the work for Leeds. But it's an interesting list when you actually go in and start breaking them down. They have all the different types. Dead ball passing. So you get guys like when you go from a dead ball, that's all free kicks and stuff like that. You see Mason Mount led the league. And then you get guys like Creswell, Ward-Prowse, Pascual Gross, these sort of set-piece specialists, Luke Shaw, Alexander Arnold, guys who create shots off the dribble, meaning they ran at someone and created a shot. Adama Traore makes sense. Harry Kane, I was surprised to see him there. Bertrand Traore from Villa, your attackers, your Zahas, your Sterlings, Neto, Alan Saint-Maxim, these guys were just incredible guys. These are shot creations. The one that was incredible, the list that was more of like the hockey assist, was goal creations. Again, that's where Kane shows up. He led the league in assists. But Vardy didn't score as many goals as he'd like to, but he was really good at creating shots. So I've been using this a lot to sort of illustrate and tell stories about the players that we love in our league. And the reason why you want to dive deep, and you do get pushback. There were some good conversations that happened on the Facebook group as I shared it across the web. People don't want to hear stats in soccer. They're like, oh, that's bullshit. I'm like, well, if you want to understand players who are affecting games that maybe are on teams where there's not a good finisher, or you want to understand, hey, I watched that game and it looked like we were good. Like, I can't tell you how many games I've watched where City completely annihilate a team, and City aren't a good example of this, but completely annihilate a team, but you're like, why didn't we win? Well, we created chances, we did everything we were supposed to do, but we weren't able to win. Or, for instance, my love for Brighton is beyond the pale, but this actually captures the problems Brighton had. They were awesome at creating shots as a team, but they were not great at creating goal opportunities. So it gives you more nuanced insight into what you see. It gives you outcomes that help you kind of get the eye test and the outcomes to make sense, right? So like when you watch a game and you know that the other team was playing really well, but they lose anyway, they'll show up. You'll see these players that create. And when it's time for the transfer window to come up and you can bring up a player's name and you're like, yo, that dude is good. I know he plays for West Ham. I know he plays for whatever. But, hey, that guy's good. Or maybe this season they'll be lucky. Oh, they got a good striker. Who is the guy providing balls in that I know is now going to be the assist man? We've got Mike's Fantasy League coming up. This is a good way to find bargains or deals of like guys who weren't high in fantasy but were really good at shot creation would be undervalued, because shot creation, shots are the lifeblood of goals. You can't score if you don't shoot. And granted, they might be creating, there are bad shots and there are good shots, but usually if you outshoot a team, you likely outscore them. It's a little bit like that. You do win the expected goals battle, blah, 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 blah. Now, Harry Kane led the league in assists, even though he wasn't the top shot creator, because of the way Spurs played. They were very much a get good shots and finish them versus hold the ball, take a lot of shots. And that's what was so frustrating about them. And you can ask Mike and listen to the whole season about it. But I recommend really getting in here, having a look at this thing, and playing around inside fbref.com. The guy, Sean Foreman, I've sent him some emails over the years. I'm just in awe of the work he did. I can't believe that this site is now covering soccer that I fell in love with baseball about. And it's incredible that it's here. And I'm just so happy that I can use it now for soccer and talk shit the way I talk shit in all the other things. So it's super exciting. And I recommend everyone look at it. It is a quiet time in sports right now. There's not much going on. We've got the Olympic soccer's playing. It's under 23s. There is a question going on. There are some young players that are really playing a lot. So Pedri and Richarlison. Pedri from Spain, who's a Barcelona player, just played a full season at Barca, just played the Euros, and is now playing the Olympics. Chari was worried about whether he should be playing or getting hurt. I don't know the right answer. I just hope that for his sake, he's 18 years old, he doesn't like blow out his knee for Barca, because it'd be a shame to see it. And then Richarlison is just kind of an athlete. I think he wants to run. I think it's a matter of what we don't know. I mean, sports science and rest is an interesting topic. We know you can overplay. We know certain things, but it's not exact. There's a lot of art involved. We have this red zone thing of like they take all the players' vitals, and if you're in the red, then you have to rest, and you rotate the squad. And Guardiola last season, City really rotated players. I know all the fantasy players know. Nobody really had more than 30 starts, maybe a handful. And then some guys that were playing a lot sort of dropped out in the end. The only player who was locked down to play was Ruben Diaz, and that was probably too much. But and Kyle Walker kind of for the first month, and then for the first sort of half of the season, then not the back half. But it is interesting. We'll see after COVID, after all this stuff, how we end up at the end with rest. We're slowly but surely getting back into normal seasons. We've got Olympics, we've got Euros, then we're going to have a World Cup in like 16 months. So I don't know how that's going to affect everything, but I just hope that the players we love and care about don't get hurt the way we sort of had in the NBA this season, where congrats to the Milwaukee Bucks, who basically won on attrition. They were the best team with the least injuries. I don't think they would win every season. They probably wouldn't have beat the Brooklyn, but they survived and didn't get hurt, and so they get to win. And I love Giannis, despite the fact that he's an Arsenal fan, and that was pretty exciting to be there and watch it. Anyway, seeing as I'm alone and I'm on the 37th minute mark, let's take it away. That was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast without Mike Salerno and with Laurent Cortines. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports Network. We record on Tuesdays and Fridays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening on Apple or anywhere else, please rate and review the show. Please sign up for the Facebook group. Tell us what you want to hear, and we will put it into the show. Thank you. Mike will be back.